Welcome back. Honorable members, the United Nations General Assembly resolved to observe the 15th September as the International Day of Democracy with the purpose of promoting and upholding the principles of democracy in our respective countries. The date coincides with the Interparliamentary Union, IPU, Universal Declaration on Democracy, which was adopted in September 1997. This year, IPU and its member parliaments observe the significance of this day under the theme, and I quote, COVID-19 and democracy, can parliaments come to the rescue, end of the quote. As parliaments, our role with other organs of state is to create conducive environment for the protection and promotion of fundamental human rights and freedom of our people, even under the current challenging circumstances of COVID-19 pandemic. We are called upon as legislators to sharpen our oversight role to ensure that the strengthening of our public health systems to meet the challenges of the pandemic, help the modalities reviving the aiding economies and addressing the challenges of poverty, hunger, disease, and other inequality associated with COVID-19 now and beyond. We have the mandate from our people to act now. We have the political will from our consciousness and the tools to better the living conditions of our citizens, the citizens of Namibia and the citizens of the world. Those are the few comments I wanted to put before you as we mark this important day. Any petitions, reports of standing and select committees, other reports and papers, notices of questions? Yes, Honorable Nico Smith.
Thank you.
Yes, I've taken note.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I give notice that on Thursday, the 22nd September 2020, I shall ask the Minister of Transport, Honourable John Mutorwa, the following. The current term of the Transportation Commission of Namibia, an essential statutory body for the economic regulation of civil aviation in Namibia, ended on the 31st of August 2020. I thus ask, do you agree that the Transportation Commission of Namibia plays an essential role in the economic regulation of civil aviation in Namibia and that continuity is therefore essential? 2. Has a new Transportation Commission been appointed yet? If not, why not? And when will one be appointed? I so submit. On the same day, I will ask the Minister of Finance, Honourable Ipombu Shimi, the following. In February 2020, I asked the then Minister of Finance whether Air Namibia had deducted pay-as-you-earn contributions from employees but had not paid this money over to the receiver of revenue. I also asked whether the same had been done regarding VAT. Comprehensive answers were given by the former minister, but it would seem that nothing has changed in the meantime. I thus ask, 1. Honourable Minister, in reply to my question 5 to your predecessor in February 2020, he stated that the Ministry of Finance has been appointed to withhold transfers to Air Namibia in respect of pay-as-you-earn deductions, together with penalties and interest not paid over by Air Namibia, as well as VAT defaults. Has this been done, and if so, what amount has been withheld? 2. Since the Ministry of Finance is aware that tax fraud has been committed by the management of Air Namibia by deducting pay-as-you-earn and not paying it over to the Ministry on due dates, what steps have been taken to institute investigation against responsible officials at the airline? I so submit, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. Next, the Honourable Dr. Yambo, please.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. What's happening? Something. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable members, fellow Namibians, I give notice that on Thursday, 24th September 2020, I shall ask Honourable Tom Alwendo, Minister of Mines and Energy, the following questions. Brief background. It is well known and extensively documented that Namibia is inundated with an abundance of precious natural resources. Namibia's resources, by the way, are not just natural resources, it's precious, and like our diamond is gem diamond, for those of you who did not know. It's not just ordinary diamond. Since more than a century of exploitation, exploitative, imperialistic and annihilatory capitalism, colonialism, vigorous exploitation of our vast resources benefited the so-called conquerors. The 30 years of political independence beset with poor governance or bad governance, rampant corruption, and pathetically wrong comrades in the riot-sensitive places only worsened the status quo. Considering that our national foreign debt stands at, and I stand corrected here, 1.2 billion, the following questions suffice. Did we consider stockpiling our resources for future generations? Does the overexploitation and profits from our natural resources continue to benefit and enrich those who milked it for decades? A brief information again. Natural resources are inextricably linked to land, where it is directly exploited from. Hence, one of Namibia's insistence on the land, that is, the soil and the subsoil and waters, to be given back to the people. Third question then, could Cabinet think through, deliberate and resolute specific ceilings for land ownership in Namibia? Most of our resources are unrenewable, going at a very alarming rate, exploitation-wise, that is, and to exhaustion. Consequently, our national debt is escalating. How are we going to ultimately refurbish the huge foreign debt? Why are we not closing some of our mines for utilization by future generations with confidence, skills, and more knowledge? Independence should, in earnest, certainly transform the society. It should redefine, rededicate, redistribute, and proportionally, equitably enhance social justice. I so move. Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Martin, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I hereby give notice that on Thursday, the 24th September 2020, I shall ask the Minister of Fishery and Marine Resources, Honorable Albert Kawana, the following. Number one, in December 2019, you met with a group of retrenched fishermen, of which you promised to retain their jobs. How far have you gone with this process? Number two, it has been over 9 months since your engagement with the retrenched fishermen. When are they getting their job back? Can you provide indication on when exactly that will be? Number three, just 3 months ago, the media reports indicates that this group have tried to have an audience with you, but to no avail. Honorable Minister, are you avoiding them? If not, please explain your immediate plans. Your immediate plans are regarding this situation. I so submit. On the same day, I hereby give the notice that on Thursday, the 24th September 2020, I shall ask the Minister of Finance, Honorable Ipumbu Shimi, the following. Number one, considering that many Namibian businesses are informal and are thus not registered or regulated, how is our GDP really being calculated if the percentage of informal businesses is on a steady increase each year? Number two, what efforts, exit plans, or aids have been made or given to assist informal businesses such as street vendors, hairdressers, bus and taxi driver, to mention a few, seeing that they do not meet the required documentation for the stimulus grant package that the government is giving out? Number three, if any plans have been made for informal business sectors, considering that most of them are not registered to any governing or regulatory body, what will then be their identification criteria? I so submit, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Next, Honorable Venani.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I crave for your indulgence under Rule 91 of the Standing Rules and Order to ask an urgent oral question to the Minister of Treasury, or Finance Minister, Naritunga's father.
Can we have the gist of the question?
Yes. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Minister, you have alluded or impressed upon government position on your intent to seek a loan from the IMF. For the last 2 years, we were predicting an IMF loan, but many of you were playing big and saying you are not there yet, but we are there. We have reached there. Have you secured the instrument, the loan facility? What is the interest on which we are going to pay this IMF loan? How much was loaned? And what is the purpose of this loan? How are we going to expend this money? Just elaborate, because it's a very important instrument.
Thank you. Honorable Minister. It is on.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think, I believe Honorable Venani's question is not very urgent. I think he can put it in writing so that we can give him substantive answers. Because this is a substantive issue.
It was an ambush question. Okay.
So we can come back to Parliament with a substantive answer.
Thank you. The Minister definitely will respond, and we leave it at that. Yeah. Let's move on to the Honourable Jennifer van der Heever.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I hereby give notice that on Thursday, the 24th of September 2020, I shall ask the Minister of Urban and Rural Development, Honourable Erastus Utoni, the following. An article in the Namibian newspaper on Monday, the 14th September of August 2020, reported that some members of the Shack Dwellers Federation at Walvis Bay are struggling to develop unserviced and unsurveyed land that was allocated to them by the local authority of Walvis Bay at Narwhal Extension 11. The group urgently needs funds to carry out levelling, servicing, roadworks, sewage, water pipes, and electricity installation services. It's rocket science to me that these people must do the service themselves. I thus ask the Minister, what possible interventions and steps can the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development undertake to help the Shack Dwellers Federation at Walvis Bay to service this land? Does the Minister not agree that if we are to defeat the urban housing crisis, government should prioritise assisting organisations such as the Shack Dwellers Federation? I so submit. Honourable Speaker, the same day I give notice that I shall ask the Minister of Works and Transport, Honourable John Mutorwa, the following. Honourable Minister, there has been a growing number of instances over the years whereby criminal elements are using number plates to commit crime. Often these criminals or the cars they use are rarely traced because the registration number plates used for these crimes are not authentic. If a person goes to the police station to open a case with a plate number that was an accessory to crime, you will not find it under anyone's name. I thus ask, what preventative measures does the Ministry have in place to ensure that citizens do not fall victim to these types of crimes? And secondly, why can't the government not adopt the American and British systems whereby your license plate number also becomes your license? This will effectively deal with this particular problem of using plate numbers for crime holistically. I so submit.
Thank you. Next, Honourable Ochap.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I gave notice that on Thursday, the 24th of September 2020, I shall ask the Minister of Water, Agriculture and Land Reform, Honourable Carles Leitvan, the following questions. Communal land is for the benefit of the traditional communities and for the purpose of promoting the economic and social development of particularly the landless and those who are not formally employed. Will the Honourable Minister inform this August House the result of the market study conducted by the Ministry, then the Ministry of Land Reform, in 2016 to determine the extent of illegal sales of communal land which are rampant even today in the two Kavango regions and in the northern regions, despite the Communal Land Act disallowing the practice. May the Minister also share the exact number of people investigated and how many have been found guilty on transactions which do not follow procedures, and how many people in the above-mentioned regions have been granted rights of freehold ownership, although the Act say no right conferring freehold ownership is capable of being granted or acquired by any person in respect of any portion of communal land. But after investigation, what measures has the Ministry taken against the illegality? And on the same thing, Honorable Speaker, I shall ask the Right Honorable Prime Minister Saragu Gongela Madila the following questions. The Namibian government has identified projects in NDPs which requires billions in monetary terms to be implemented and are expected to be funded from the multitude of sources so as to realize the goals that we have set for ourselves as Namibians to achieve in the 5 years' time. May the Right Honorable Prime Minister enlighten the honorable members of this august House and the nation about the progress and the awareness from the side of the National Planning Commission on the polarization campaigns for the NDPs to create public awareness on national priorities. May the Right Honorable Prime Minister also share how the 34 focus areas identified to serve as priority areas for the country in the past 5 years was aligned with the HPP to ease the National Development Framework. And may the Honorable Prime Minister also share which institutions responsible for implementation of a particular project has already submitted the required comprehensive progress report to the National Planning Commission. I so submit, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.
Next is the Honorable Dr. Winyangwe. You have the floor.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I give notice that on Thursday, 24th of September, I shall ask the Minister of Works and Transport, Honorable John Mutorwa, with regard to the Okahanja-Okonjatu Road, as well as the Okonjatu-Kakarara Road. Road infrastructure is one of the most important public assets of any country. Road infrastructure contributes to socio-economic development and growth. Roads provide access to social, health, employment, and education services, as well as facilities. Good roads do not only save lives, but constructing a good road network is critical in the fight against poverty as well. The distance from Okahanja to Okonjatu is more or less 190 kilometers. And this road is a very important road that can link important towns and regions. In this road, we also find the Osholontu Manganese Mine, the Purity Manganese Mine. There is also a school as well as a health facility. So it's a very important road. Honorable Speaker, upgrading the Okahanja-Osholontu Road to bitumen standard will have the following benefits. One, it will take off the heavy traffic load from the B1 Okahanja-Oshuarongo Road and indirectly decrease car accidents in which many lives were lost. People going to Grootfontein and Orundu can divert from the Okahanja-Shwarongo Road and use the Okahanja-Oshorundu one that will take them straight to Grootfontein. The Okahanja-Okonjatu Road will not only link various commercial towns, but it will also link regions. For example, Oshorunjupa, Kavango, the two Kavango regions as well as Zambezi region. And the SADC countries such as Botswana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. So it is a very crucial road to ensure road safety, socio-economic development, and growth. Honorable Speaker, the same applies to the MR 115, that is the Okakarara-Okonjatu Road upgrading. The upgrading construction of these roads are covered in the Roads Authority Strategic Plan 2018-19 to 2022-23. My question then to the Honorable Minister is, when is the Ministry of Works and Transport, or where can we as Namibians expect to see the implementation of works on these two roads? So I submit, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the same day, I shall give notice that on the same day, the 24th of September, I shall ask the Minister of Education, Arts and Culture, Honorable Esther Ipondoka, with regard to a school called Amitofo. This school is situated in the area of Hoogveld on the Okahanja-Okonjatu Road C31. According to information, this school started 5-6 years ago, around 2013-2014, to accommodate children who are living under difficult circumstances. Either they have lost parents, or parents are not in a position to take care of their children. There are some concerns from community members that the school is under the custody of Chinese nationals and that the children are introduced to Chinese culture. Apparently, children are not allowed to leave the school premises, and parents are not allowed to visit their children. This raises serious eyebrows, especially in a time when trafficking of persons is a serious social evil, not only in Namibia but in the world. With around 8,000 victims of trafficking globally, numbers in Namibia are much lower compared to other African countries. However, Honorable Speaker, the prevalence rate of 3.3 in a country of 2.5 million is quite high if one compares it with other states with a similar population. Also, the number of human trafficking in Namibia is growing at an alarming rate. Namibia is considered as a source and destination of trafficking in persons. It is against this background, Honorable Speaker, honorable members, that more information and clarity is needed regarding this Amitofo school to guarantee the Namibian nation that the safety of these children is definite. It is said to house vulnerable children, and we know that poverty, unemployment, low levels of education, and family instability make people more vulnerable to trafficking. Thus, NUTO will appreciate if the Honorable Minister can provide answers to the following questions. 1, is it true that this school exists? And if the answer is yes, what kind of school is it? Is it a primary school, starting from grade what and ending at which grade? 2, is this a school or a shelter for vulnerable children who are provided with accommodation and care? 3, is it true that the children are taught Chinese culture and doctrine. Can the Honorable Minister share more light on how the curriculum does look like? If children are introduced to Chinese culture, food and doctrine, because apparently they also don't eat meat, is this not another form of neo-colonialism? Finally, Honorable Speaker, how are the children identified and selected? And for the benefit of many Namibians, what does the name Amitofo mean? I so submit, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. We'll allow you to come down. She will soon be here. No. Anyway, step by step, we'll find a way to get those members who are out in the gallery to communicate whatever documentation through a new system. We are working on that. Internet. Thank you very much. We are done. The questions are here. Next, Honorable Hungary. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I hereby give notice that on Thursday, 24th of September this year, I shall ask the Minister of Higher Education, Training and Innovation, Honorable Itakanji Murangi, on the following. Honorable Minister, on the 9th of September 2020, you took to the floor to brief this August House and the nation at large on the effects of COVID-19 on the higher education sector and how the government of the Republic sought to mitigate the impact on the sector to the COVID-19 Emergency Support Program for higher education institutions and students. In your statement, Honorable Minister, you speak about an evidence-based approach that was adopted in that the National Council for Higher Education conducted a needs analysis with the higher education institutions on e-learning. A number of findings were listed, particularly pertaining to this mode of learning. Secondly, Honorable Minister, you informed this August House that a holistic strategy was presented to Cabinet to address the challenges of access and capacity that institutions are faced with. Honorable Minister, it is no secret that the Namibia Students Financial Assistance Fund has been struggling over the years to recover monies owed to the institution by previously funded students. NASFAF has demonstrated its lack of institutional capacity not only to recover funds from students but also to ensure a smooth distribution of these funds to beneficiaries of students at higher education institutions. I therefore ask the following. 1. What measures and mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that, although the laptop initiative is a government one, run through the NASFAF, monies due because of the initiative do not hamper on the institution's capacity to fund students in future and its ability to recover such funds? 2. There is a deliberate exemption of current challenges faced by students pre-COVID-19. I'm particularly referring to the 300 plus students pursuing local government studies and the program in HIV at the University of Namibia who have failed to secure loans from the NASFAF but are enrolled with the university on the basis of acknowledgement letters received by the institution. In our quest to prepare both student and learner for the new normal, is it not prudent then that we maintain efforts to mitigate challenges faced by students even before COVID-19? 3. Whilst I'm particularly delighted that the ministry has made an effort this time around to come up with an initiative that is beneficial to both privately funded students and NASFAF beneficiaries, I'm skeptical about the definition of a needy student. Is the criteria to be met for one to be categorized as needy, and have these been made known to students to promote accountability? and transparency. 4. Honorable Minister, how did your ministry arrive at the number of 32,000 students who are in need of laptops? Because if I'm asked on my portal that government plans on running a program that would make me a potential beneficiary as a student in that moment, if I'm asked whether I need a laptop, well, my answer certainly will be a yes. Apart from the needs analysis run by the NCHE, what other methodologies were used to ensure efficiency and accuracy of the information provided? 5. The acting CEO of NASFAF has informed student leaders that about 200 million was received for the first round of distribution. To put into perspective, by now, every student with the exception of first years must have received monies to afford a device of some kind. How then is it that 32,000 students are in need of laptops? 6. It is my deepest conviction that when leaders like yourself in charge of such primary sectors and lives upon which this country will rely on one day, consistent consultation ought to take place to ensure that when we make decisions that we think are in the best interest of our constituents, we remain in touch with the realities on the ground. I thus ask, did you, Honorable Minister, take this House in bad faith when you said organizations such as the SUN, the UNAM SRCs, and the likes were engaged?
Thank you. Next, the Honorable Mongo.
Honorable Speaker, I have an oral question to the Right Honorable Prime Minister. Honorable Speaker, you will recall that before we adjourned this House for recess, Honorable Yangari directed an oral question to the Deputy Prime Minister with regards to parcels that were to be received by Namibian students studying in Havana, Cuba. Perhaps just a follow-up on that. What is the status of these parcels as we speak? What is the government doing to ensure that 3 to 4 months since the announcement of this initiative, students do finally receive these parcels in any way possible? Thank you.
Thank you. Is that a question directed to Prime Minister? Oh, yes. PM.
I acknowledge that the question is important, but I believe that that question could have been put in order for detailed information to be provided. I would be happy to say, however, that the moment the issue arose, the government acted to provide some relief to these students, but we know that there are some problems that persist still that are being addressed. But if she wants to get precise information, she would have to provide the question in advance so that we can provide with her, provide her with the details. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, I think, no. No, what we are saying, let me explain. We are saying that for health reasons, it's important that you have your mask on, and wherever I really don't. Yeah. Yes. I know. The honourable member is not the first person, so it's not something that we are prohibiting. But for safety reason, if that is what they have, I think they should be permitted to have it. Yes, please. Okay, let's move on. Honourable Nicholas Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Speaker. I just want...
Yes, it is on.
Honourable Speaker, I just want to apologise that I'm coming again with a question because I was just waiting for it. It was not in time delivered to me. But, Honourable Speaker, I hereby give notice that on Thursday, the 24th September 2020, I shall ask the Minister of Justice Honourable Yvonne Dosap the following. The Whistleblower Protection Act 10 of 2017 and the Witness Protection Act 11 of 2017 were both passed by the National Assembly and the National Council and further signed by the President of the country on 6 October 2017. That's 11 months ago. However, up till now, today, these two very important pieces of legislation have still not been brought into force. Thus I ask, 1, why is there a delay in the promulgation of the Whistleblower Protection Act 10 of 2017 and the Witness Protection Act 11 of 2017? 2, is there a deliberate attempt by government to stall these two acts coming into force? 3, how does the government intend on fighting corruption effectively while the framework and legislation aimed at protecting whistleblowers and witnesses is not yet there? I so move.
Thank you. Next, Honorable Kawandenge.
Speaker, I don't have a particular question. I just want... What is that?
You're so rude.
I just want a clarification, Honorable Speaker, on the ruling that you just made. Because I think it's deflective in law and in practice. For the simple reason. When we took over and stand there and raise our hands and took the oath of office, my understanding was that from that moment we became the representatives of the Namibian people, irrespective of our political affiliations. Now when the Speaker make a ruling to say in this Auke's house that we can come here with our party colors, I'm left perplexed to the core, flabbergasted. You know, intellectually challenged Honorable Prime Minister to understand that. I think the Honorable Speaker can just call on the Honorable Member not to do that again. Because if we allow that, tomorrow I'm calling upon this side to bring and come with all our party colors this side. It will not look good. Seriously, on a serious note.
And we are having a...
Okay. Honorable, can we listen to each other? I did not notice that a colleague was wearing a party color as such until the Honorable Sebeb drew the attention of the House to that. And all I was saying, if for some reason you find yourself with a particular mask of whatever color and you are coming to work, you enter here, it's extremely difficult for anybody to prevent you from coming to work wearing that particular mask. And secondly, she's not the first person, I'm sure there have been other members as well. But I just ask the Secretary to go and get a mask from the office to give the Honorable Member so that we can take care of the... Honorable Sebeb, so I'm simply saying, if you are wearing a mask, the mask is for your... the mask, please, let's not get excited about this. The idea is to protect yourself. And that to me is important, really. I don't think we should really make it into a big issue. Sooner or later, this pandemic will come and go, and we will not have an issue about this. Let's leave it at that. No. I don't want us to make an issue. No. I don't want to be diverted. No. We will not get into a debate about this, please. Thank you. Honorable, yes, Martin. Oh, yeah, please. Honorable, we are moving into notices of motions. Thank you very much. Honorable Martin, you have the floor.
Am I protected,
yes,
Honorable Speaker?
You are protected.
Thank you. Honorable Speaker, I hereby give notice that on Thursday, the 17th September 2020, I shall move that this Assembly discusses and design fair and effective approach for street vendors' operation. Honorable Speaker, it said that the importance of street vendors in Namibia is disregarded. They are living with uncertainty and insecurity and mostly treated like criminals, despite that they are contributing to formal economic sector. I so move, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Shenkul, Minister of Information Technology, you have the floor. It's coming.
Honorable Speaker, mine was just the response when there was an issue of particular, but you have said.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, I give notice that tomorrow, the 16th of September 2020, I shall move that this Assembly discuss and agree to the ratification of the treaty for the establishment of the African Medicine Agencies. I so move, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. We move on. Messages from the head of state, ministerial statements. I think we are done. Oh, yes. Yes. Honorable Agnes Shongarero.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, on the situation of football in the country as it was requested by Honorable Gawandenge. Football is a significant part of any nation's culture and social upliftment. The power of football in society is on display every day around the world. It is a game that brings people together, inspires generations, and promotes team spirit. In this regard, Namibia is no exception. Our ministry has set a target of contributing 2% of the employment rate of the country by 2022. And naturally, football, as the biggest sport code of our country, should be at the forefront of our developmental initiatives. The impasse within Namibia football regarding the Namibia Premier League has the potential to threaten our ability to attain our target as set out in our National Development Plan. The impasse had a negative social impact on the lives of young people. In this situation is concerning us as a ministry with a mandate, who have a mandate to empower young people. Following the much publicized fallout within the previous Executive Committee of Namibia Football Association, the Namibian government, through the ministry responsible for sport, sought FIFA's intervention to restore order. This then culminated in FIFA appointing Normalization Committee tasked with administering the Namibia Football Association, as well putting in place the necessary logistical arrangements to ensure the holding of elections. Subsequently, a new leadership was elected earlier this year. Expectantly, the whole of Namibia considered the matter resolved. However, what transpired since then has resulted in an impasse in the country's football again. Frequent court cases and suspensions has crippled football in the Republic of Namibia. On Monday, 31st August 2020, we formally requested the Namibia Sport Commission to brief our office on developments around the issue and the interventions they undertook to resolve the impasse engulfing Namibia football. Subsequent to the briefing by the Namibia Sport Commission, and based on the provisions of Chapter 6, Article 40A of the Namibia Constitution, read in conjunction with Section 14 of the Namibia Sport Act 12 of 2003, we have directed the Namibia Sport Commission to appoint, in line with Section 8 of the Namibia Sport Act 12 of 2003, a committee to independently and impartially mitigate the impasse in Namibia football. The situation of Namibia football is not a zero-sum game. That is why the Committee of Eminent Persons has been authorized to conduct its business in accordance with the terms of reference. The terms of reference have been set out to achieve one singular objective, and that is to bring long-lasting peace and harmony in football. It is expected that the Committee of Eminent Persons will produce a report with recommendations to all relevant stakeholders to determine the next course of action. To this end, it is important to underline that the fundamental commitment and sole objective of the Ministry of Sport, Youth and National Service is to bring long-lasting peace and harmony in Namibia football for the benefit of our young people. And I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Commanding Gear.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, since I did ask the Minister for that question where she replied, I would like to say that yes, in a way, I don't know whether sufficient or not, but at least she tried to answer my questions, although I'm left with tons of many other questions. But I think as a starting point, she really did try to do so. However, Honorable Minister, I plea, and this is not a question, just a plea from my side, that irregardless of what the regulations are with FIFA, that government must not get involved in local football. But there is a need, and I applaud your initiative, at least to establish that committee, but there is a need to intervene decisively in football matters in this country. Because unfortunately, it appears that most of those that are in positions of power now, they are only there because of their own egos. But our athletes, the soccer players, are suffering on the ground. But Honorable Speaker, it's only just an acknowledgement that at least you did come back to the Parliament with a reply, but very short and sweet, but still a reply. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure as time goes on, the Honorable Minister will come back to Parliament
put a committee apparently
to give us an update. Honorable Minister, you still want to say something? Yes, please.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Gawandenge, what we are trying is, we are all concerned about these young people you are talking about. But if we follow your suggestion, we will be kicked out of all football. Now, before we can reach that point, because that will be the last resort, we have to try all the avenues so that one day, and we are hoping still this year, our young girls and boys, or men, women and men, can start kicking that round leather thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We move on. The first notice of a motion is the one of the Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform. Does the Honourable Minister move the motion?
I so move, Honourable Speaker.
Who seconds the motion? Any objection? Agree to? Is there an objection? Oh. Thank you very much. It's a question to the motion.
I haven't tabled even.
Can we wait for him? You can wait until he's done, come back. The Honourable Minister, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable members, I'm rising to motivate the ratification of the Orange Shenkul River Basin Commission Agreement ratification. Namibia has no perennial rivers within its territory. Large portions of the nation's perennial water is found in transboundary rivers that form the northern or part of the northern and southern borders with our neighbors. As water sources in areas with economic development potential in the interior of Namibia are becoming virtually fully exploited, the country's future economic development and urban development will have to tap into these resources through long-distance water transfers from shared water sources. The revision of agreements is necessitated by the need to negotiate reasonable and equitable access for Namibia to the water of the perennial rivers on the country's borders, and to align the agreement with the framework provided by the revised SADC Protocol on Shared Watercourses, the SADC Water Policy, and the SADC Water Strategy. It is also necessary to consolidate the existing international cooperation on shared river systems. The Orange Shenkul River Basin Commission, or RASCOM in short, was established by an agreement signed on 3rd November 2000 in Windhoek, in Namibia, and it is an agreement between 4 riparian states, namely the Republic of Botswana, the Kingdom of Lesotho, the Republic of Namibia, and the Republic of South Africa. The RASCOM agreement served as the legal instrument governing the joint utilization of the water courses in the basin, as well as the suitable management of the basin as a whole. So it's not only the river itself, it is the whole basin that is subject to or falls within the jurisdiction of Orascom. The implementation of the project and programs within the framework of the old Orascom agreement revealed that the agreement had been outdated and it did not provide for some key policies and institutional arrangements. The state of affairs led to a review of the agreement, and subsequently the Orascom agreement was then revised and aligned to current frameworks of shared water management in SADC and global instruments. Some of the pertinent provisions of the revised agreement that were not included in the old agreement are, firstly, the Secretariat, whose role is program coordination and management, including the following functions. There are a number of functions. First, coordinate Orascom activities and implement Orascom decisions. Secondly, serve as a reciprocity of information related to Orange Shenkul River Basin. Thirdly, act as a focal point of the Orascom with all external parties. Fourthly, perform Orascom administrative functions. Fifthly, conduct communication and promotions for Orascom. 6, program and project development and management. And 7th and lastly, resource mobilization. Secondly, the composition of the Commission is now clearly provided for in the revised agreement. It is the ministers responsible for water affairs that are now included in the composition of the Commission as members of the forum of the parties to be the highest decision-making organ of the Commission, with their annual and extraordinary meetings properly provided in Article 9. Cabinet authorized the Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform to sign on behalf of Namibia the revised Orascom agreement, which my predecessor, Honorable Alfred Naruseb, did in April 1990. The decision also authorized, of course, the Minister to table the agreement for ratification in the National Assembly, which I am doing here. Namibia is a downstream country, and as such, it is impacted upon by any development upstream or within the basin of any perennial river that we have. This agreement only concerns the Orange Shenkul River Basin. It is not having any impact on other rivers, the ones in the north. But it will elevate the roles and functions of Orascom members, the Commission itself, member states, towards joint management of shared Orange Shenkul River waters and Namibia's position, especially when negotiating for her reasonable and equitable share. Honourable Speaker, honourable members, it is recommended that the National Assembly agrees to the ratification of the revised Orascom agreement in terms of Article 19 of it, and that the Minister of International Relations, upon approval by the National Assembly, effects ratification on behalf of Namibia in terms of Article 20 of the revised agreement. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Honorable John Mutorwa. Oh, no, Honorable Venani, please. I'm sorry.
Honorable Speaker, I rise to raise some concerns on this very important instrument and ratification of the 4 riparian states that are using the Orange, other names, Sako Basin. But I want to start off by saying this is an issue very close to my heart. Honorable John Mutorwa, esteemed as the Minister of Agriculture, and myself were very and consistently engaged on this matter to find a win-win. From the onset, I must say that it's one thing to set up commissions that attempts to find a win-win, and it's another thing to really arrive at a win-win. Primarily because of a number of factors. You have said it very well, saying that Namibia, as one of the 4 riparian states, is a downstream country. Now, if you look at the usage of that basin, South Africa, a little bit of Lesotho, because I went with that river on road from the Namibian side right up to Bloemfontein. If you look at the water utilization of the Orange River by South Africa, compared to the 3 other countries that are supposed to benefit, South Africa, there's no balance at all. And the poverty in the south of this country is directly hinged and linked to the water utilization of the Orange River. Now, this is the end result. We have negotiated through the EPA negotiations with the European Union on a quotaless access market that we can bring our produce in the European market without any restriction. And grapes is one of the products that can enter the European market fetching lucrative prices. But if we have to address the grape industry today, one of the things is that we are not in control of it. It is controlled by South Africans on Namibian soil. There are no Namibians entry farmers that are benefiting directly or indirectly from the grape farms. The only project of note that is there, but that is also collapsing, is the, what is the old name of it, the new name of NDC? NIDA, the old NDC. That project is collapsing. And if you really, yes, of course, it is collapsed. There is no produce happening there. But the South African vineyards and 2-3 Namibians that own some vineyards there are the ones that are making profit. And we are talking about 100 hectare of grape farms brings a total revenue of between 380 to 600 million Namibian dollars. And it's one industry that Namibians have not entered. And it is all centered around the water usage of the Orange River. So it's one thing to put up commissions, to speak of the values and ethos of sharing the resource, but the resource in its current form is not shared by us. South Africa, from when you enter the border of South Africa up to Bloemfontein, nearly all the grape farms that are in South Africa are direct beneficiary of the Orange River Basin. So I do not know how ratifying this important commission would address the question of fair and equitable utilization of this resource. I also do not think that Botswana is also benefiting very much from this basin. So, and I want to open the discussion a little bit, to expand the discussion a little bit, also on the other perennial rivers that are within our own country. Kavango, Zambezi, Kunene, and the Orange River. There is poverty today in Kavango. Kavango is one of the poorest regions in the country. Its statistics. Well, statistics are informed by the human condition index. And that is not even a lie. We are bringing a motion to discuss the poverty in Kavango, and we'll discuss it. Yes? Why is it that people that are close to water resources, people that are having access to water, are still the poorest in this country? So we also want to impress upon the Minister of Water, listen, we want to impress upon the Minister to say that yes, we should enter in these multilateral agreements, but these multilateral agreements, we should not be shortchanged. Because at this point in time, our view is that the Orange River Basin is in the realm of South Africa, and the South Africans are having both a geographical advantage because of the fact that they are upstream, and the geographical benefit of having the longest part of the river within their country. But if we have to talk about sharing that water resource, it is not helping the South. It has not taken the South out of the poverty. And we want to see that if we are ratifying these instruments, that new hectares, nearly 300 or 400 new hectares of grape farms could be created for young Namibian farmers living in the South, for them to have access to this water and be able to access the lucrative European markets in the broader interest of our socio-economic trajectory. So we are supporting having ratification of this instrument, but we are pointing a finger to our Namibian negotiators on the table that, gentlemen, we are not getting the benefit of the Orange River, and more should be done. I so submit, Honorable.
Thank you. I'm looking at the mic. Where is he taking me to? Oh, yes, yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, I firstly would like to confirm my full support for the ratification of the 2018 Orascom agreement on behalf of the UDF. However, I only would like to pose a few questions just for the sake of clarity to this House and also to the nation at large. It is a global practice that where a perennial river forms the boundary between two countries, the middle of that river is regarded as a boundary line between such countries. Yet, the Republic of South Africa was maintaining that the northern bank of the Orange River is the boundary between the Republic of South Africa and Namibia, which put Namibia in a very disadvantaged position. The other thing, therefore, I would like to ask is whether the Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, that it is still the case or whether it has also been revised. If it has been revised, then it is good. But if it has not been revised, we are being left at the mercy of our big brother South Africa, because they are claiming then that the water also in that river belongs to them. It is then only by charity that they are giving us what they are giving. That will be the situation. Secondly, what or which projects are we as Namibia planning to benefit our country as we go into this agreement? What are the projects? Because we need to pump the water up into the mainland. Now, what projects are we having to benefit Namibia at large? The agreement with Angola also, thirdly, our other good neighbor has taught us how much water we may extract from the Kunene River, which is also a similar border on a perennial river. I therefore would like to know what amount of water we as a nation can extract from the river on a daily or weekly or monthly or annual basis, so that with that amount of water we can plan to develop our nation here inland. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable John Mutorwa.
Thank you, Comrade Speaker, for giving me the floor to make a contribution to this very important agreement that my honorable colleague, the Minister of Water, has tabled in accordance with Article 63, sub E of the Namibian Constitution, which clearly states that it is the function and power of this honorable House to agree to the ratification and accession to international agreements which have been negotiated. Surely, in agreeing, we have to debate, we have to raise some issues, but I'm simply rising in support of this very important agreement And I would like in particular to make reference first to the principles underlying this agreement, which are very, very, very important principles as articulated in Article number 4, sub 1A and B of the agreement. The first one is to ensure that the utilization of the water course is open to each party within its territory and without prejudice to its sovereign rights in accordance with the principles contained in this agreement. Very, very important principle, good one, which we must ensure that it is applied like that in practice. The same with principle number B, which talks about to ensure the respect for and application of existing rules of general or customary international law relating to the utilization and management of the resources of the water course, in particular, to respect and abide by the principles of community interest in the equitable utilization of the water course and the related resources. Definitely these are good principles which once agreed to through this agreement, the four states, they are parties to the agreement, must ensure that that happens. And it is our responsibility as far as the interests of the Namibian state and the Namibian people are concerned. It is through both the parliament and the executive to ensure that the noble principles as articulated here are practically so implemented and beneficial to the communities of both Namibia, South Africa, Botswana, and Lesotho. Then I make reference to article number 7.2 of the agreement. This one talks about the relationship between this agreement and other agreements. Again, Commerce Minister, very, very important. It's a question at the operational level to ensure that what is being stated here is practically so implemented to the benefit, again, as I said, of the communities, the people. Then Article 10, going back into history, I must inform this Honorable House that this is the article that was not present in the existing agreements that time. And it is this particular article that really took long to finalize the agreement that we are requested to do now. I remember the meeting of ministers of water that Namibia hosted around, I think, 2010, if I'm not mistaken. The Honorable Anna Shiweda could correct me. We hosted the Orasocom meeting here. It was a very important meeting where, as ministers, we were so critical Because in the existing agreement, the highest decision-making structure of Orasecom was the council, which is now in Article 11. The ministers were nowhere in that agreement. And we said, but it cannot work that way. We debated it, and at least we agreed in principle that we need to work on it. And we assigned then the technocrats to look at this. So I'm very happy that now we have this forum of ministers. As it is stated there, it is the supreme decision-making body to which the council must account, because the ministers, as representatives of their sovereign state, sovereign government, must be there. I'm very glad that it is now in here, and the minister has also stated so in his motivation. Then Article 18.3. Maybe here is some kind of a question. I don't have any problem, but just a question for clarity, maybe. Article 18, about the dispute settlement. Because obviously the politics of water is a very, very delicate one, sensitive. We know what is now happening with the Nile. It's water is life. It's not, when there is a dispute, normally it can be a very serious dispute on water. But I'm glad here, Article 18, that initially if there's any dispute, then we need to follow the issues of or mechanism of negotiation in the spirit of mutual friendship and cooperation. But then sub 3, in the event that the dispute is not resolved amicably, it shall be referred to the Tribunal of the Southern African Development Community. I take it, once it goes to the tribunal, the decision probably is final. But I don't know, maybe colleagues can help me, the tribunal, the SADC tribunal, as we speak, I know it is made provision for in the treaty, but is it functional? Is it functional, the tribunal? So maybe it is something that we need to look at, more so than when we have agreements like this one that we are ratifying, that all those structures need to function. Because, as I said, the issue of water is a complex one, but it is something that everybody needs, because water is a life-giving and a life-sustaining kind of a commodity. Necessary for life, necessary for development. You can't do it without water. And then finally, Comrade Minister, I just checked with you there with regard to Article 6.1, and what we have agreed there, I thought it has satisfied my inquiry, but now Article 6.1, establishment and legal status of the Commission. It states that the Commission established in terms of the 2000 agreement shall continue to exist as if established under this agreement. That we clarified that one. But I'm reading this one, Comrade Minister, in relation to Article 27. Now, Article 27 states the following. It is the repeal of the Orasecom Agreement of 2000. And it states that this agreement repeals, this one that we are ratifying, repeals and replaces the agreement between the governments of the Republic of Botswana, the Kingdom of Lesotho, the Republic of Namibia, and the Republic of South Africa on the establishment of the Orange Sengu River Commission, which was signed on the 3rd of November 2000. Now, this one is repealing it, but this Article 6 is saying that it is still in existence. Maybe the lawyers there can help me. Maybe I'm just trying to read too much in it, but I think it's necessary that we need to have clarification. But otherwise, this is one of those agreements, colleagues, as the Minister has stated, we as Namibia, we have 4 perennial rivers on the borders. Nothing that runs through our country perennially. Only when we have good rains, then the other rivers will run. That is how Namibia is. Orange, down south, which is shared by 4 countries, whose agreement, whose treaty we are required now to ratify. Then we have the Kunene, which is shared by Angola and ourselves. And we have Kavango, that is shared by 3 sovereign states. Angola, where the river originates from, ourselves, Namibia, and the Republic of Botswana, where the river ends. Then we have the Zambezi, the biggest of them all. The mighty Zambezi is a river that is shared by 8 sovereign states. Zambia, Angola, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Malawi. I'm giving a lecture now. Malawi, Mozambique, I think they are Tanzania. So there are 8. So you know you have 8 countries with their own interests, and each one of them must ensure that their interests are protected and that they get maximum benefit out of it. This one, 4 countries, the same, principle is the same. So what I'm saying is that this is an item that we need to debate, but at the end of the day, it is an item that we need to adopt unanimously. Thank you, Comrade Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Next. I think I recognize Honorable Swartwood.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chairperson. Deputy Speaker, my apologies for the opportunity. I rise in support of the ratification of this revised agreement that was tabled by the Honorable Carly Schledwein. However, I just want to make 1 or 2 additional comments for his consideration going forward. The first is, how do we make sure that resources such as water that we share with other sovereign states, and in particular this instance, the Orange River, do not just almost exclusively serve commercial and commercialized interests to the exclusion of adjacent communities. By way of amplification, if one looks at the Orange River this side of Namibia, it almost exclusively serves commercial interests
in fact, majority of which are either South African or European, be it the grape or the date industry. And then here and there a bit of government that has some projects that Honorable Venani also mentioned in his intervention. And in the collective, those interests, when calculated, do not probably, on a revenue basis, exceed 6 or 7 billion. If you combine Osingir, you combine a few of the farms adjacent to the river, and then you add Komsberg, it surely doesn't exceed 7 billion. It probably could, but from my rough calculations, it doesn't, which means that the impact that the river could have is reasonably limited and therefore underdeveloped. You also, in that river, have, Honorable Minister, a difficulty in which water use rights are excessively granted to Komsberg grape farms there, where I think around 48% of the total water use of the Orange River on this side of Namibia is allocated to one farm, Komsberg, which puts it in an excessively powerful position of almost an exclusive use, at least in that vicinity of that water basin, without, and if one looks at the territory of Komsberg, without itself offering an additional terrain or further expansion. It's really in a mountainous area where there is little expansion capability. But they have done well in some respects, indeed. So that is one. The second is the communities of Gabes, Heiragabes, Klipfontein, Warambad, Gruno, and all the adjacent Bondelswarts area there has, and Honorable Mutora would know, Honorable Schletwijn knows, Honorable Narusek knows, has underground water problems, such that once you acquire a farm in those areas, the whole road from Gruno, Honorable Deputy Speaker, to Noordoever, you would see that the land actually is barren, and it has to do with poor water, underground water. It would be good, therefore, that a massive resource like the Orange River is urgently, and urgent is, one has to define what urgent means under financial problems, but is one where the community must be brought into the benefits that the river gives to commercial interests. Why not pump water to those communities and have distribution capabilities? If you look at the history, at least of this government, at least on the waterfront, some good work has been done in respect of pumping water from Combat to Okonyatu area. Of course, there are other problems that it brings about in terms of costs, but certainly a model of that sort is one that should, I think, be looked at, so that these international agreements are not only to the benefit of businesses, and that communities are therefore squeezed into a very minimalistic economic enterprise of goat farming, while their lives could actually be transformed into what the other commercial interests also do on the same soil types, as is the case. I think, Honorable Minister, you would recognize also that as a country, our approach sometimes to community resource sharing becomes problematic. And I'm making this final point while I'm sitting down, that if you, for instance, look at the Naranin, the Utusep community there, where they have a huge water resource, from that water resource, Honorable Deputy Speaker, NEM Water takes with pipes that water into Wolfish Bay. Along that entire trajectory as the water is transported, communities at Utusep, as it is the case in Okonyatu, are charged fairly exorbitant prices for water, almost as if they are in an urban area. And that has to do with the excessive power that NEM Water has been given perhaps it worked before, but it does not clearly work as a sustainable water supply system. That in Okonyatu, as it is in Utusek, if in that rural area, as the water comes past you and gives you a little bit, if you don't pay for the water on time, it is switched off, it is cut off in Utusek, in Okonyatu, in Okakarara Reservoir. And you wonder, but where are the royalties that these communities that are part owners of this resource could at least obtain as part of their contribution? I think when the Negerdal Dam was done, I think this government at least did a bit of work to engage communities and to say, look, let's have a give and take. Perhaps not perfectly, but there was an attempt. I'm just saying, as part of what we have here, let the Minister and I have very, very significant confidence in the Honorable Schledwein, that there be a give and take and that there be deliberate efforts made so that these communities around the Orange River, in this instance, since this is what we are discussing, could benefit from the resource in a very sustainable way. I so submit and I support the ratification. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Honorable Kawandeng.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, before I pronounce ourselves whether we are in support or not of the treaty, let me say this as my short contribution to the bill, to the treaty, not the bill, sorry. But Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm really going to be very obstinate on this one, very unyielding, in my belief that international instruments that has been signed by Namibia over the past 30 years or so, are they really, do we sign for the sake of signing? Do we sign because it's what is best? Or do we sign because we believe in those principles? The Honorable Minister, Honorable Mutua, talked about principles. And this is where I want to go to. If we are to sign treaties and international instruments, but that does not speak to the needs and aspirations of our people on the ground, shall we say then that those principles as enshrined in those treaties, in those documents that we sign, can be implemented in the longer run? Do we sign them knowing very well that they will maybe in the longer run collect dust wherever they are? And this is really my problem, Honorable Minister. I don't have any problem with ratifying and supporting the ratification of treaties. But my only concern and problem is that once they are ratified, do they really get implemented in order to, perhaps, as Patrick Mulumba said, as Thomas Sankara said, as Stephen Bako said here next door in South Africa, that African resources should be given back to Africans for the benefit and aspiration of Africans. This is my only concern. Because why I'm asking that question is that we have instruments that we have already put pen to paper to. The SADC Parliamentary Forum, the SADC itself as an organ, the tribunals before the ratification of this one. Did or are they responsive? Are they active? Are they really, whatever we put on paper in a document like this one, does this get implemented? But for whose benefit in the longer run? Is it to our benefit, to our people benefit, or is it to those that are milking the system from far away? This is my only concern, Honorable Minister. I sincerely hope that in the interest of our people and the country at large, that this treaty, once ratified, will address the pertinent issue that is faced by our people on that side of the country. for their own benefit, not for our own benefit in the longer run. But in conclusion, Honorable Deputy Speaker and Honorable Minister, perhaps also it's high time, Honorable Mutorwa, that whenever we do these treaties, that we employ in those treaties the Maslow hierarchy of needs. They are very important. Before we sign any treaty, that we must cross-check and see whether those needs or that parameter has been taken care of. You know? So that is my only contribution to the treaty, and I support it on behalf of NOTO. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Honorable Fries.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker, honorable members. While my party supports the revised agreement, we would like to know the status of our engagements with South Africa on our southern border issue, as has previously been raised by Honorable Dudu Murorwa. Have we now accepted that the Namibia-South African border is on the northern banks of the Orange River? This is an important question which needs to be resolved sooner than later, so that we are in compliance with our constitution, where the territory of Namibia is defined unambiguously in Article 1, Sub-Article 4 of the Namibian Constitution. If the argument of South Africa is sustained and accepted, we must amend our constitution. Hence, government must provide clarity on this matter. Furthermore, we are of the view that Namibia has to look beyond our current sources of water to secure water sustainability. As we all know, Namibia is a very arid country, and the country is expected to have a drought frequently under the current climatic conditions. The PDM believes that for our nation to unleash its real potential and to effectively create jobs and food security, our strategy regarding sustainable water supply should change. Climate change and the unpredictability of our present-day environment makes it mandatory for us to look at new innovative ways as to how we can achieve water security and sustainability for Namibia. Firstly, we have to develop desalination plants along the coast and create a cross-water line to pump water into the interior for aggressive agricultural modernization and diversification. The Areva desalination plant that was established in 2010 can be significantly expanded to provide potable drinking water beyond Swakopmund and the mines. It is commendable that in 2019, government commissioned the University of Namibia and the University of Turku in Finland in a joint initiative that built a 100% renewable energy desalination plant along the coast that produces 3,500 liters of water per hour from the ocean with zero energy costs and without any batteries. These are the kind of interventions we should be making towards water security, but one such project is simply not enough. We have to desalinate at a much more expanded level to solve our water crisis and to respond better to our hazardous climate conditions. For better reference, we have to look at the Middle East to properly dissect the benefits that desalination can offer. The desalination of water has been a resounding success in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait. Saudi Arabia leads the globe in the production of desalinated water with a daily production capacity of 117 million cubic meters. The country also has the largest floating desalination plant in the world, with a capacity of producing up to 882 cubic meters. The United Arab Emirates is a desert nation which has extremely scarce freshwater resources and a fresh water per capita demand of 650 liters per day. The UAE, the United Arab Emirates government, established 8 desalination plants in the Gulf state at a cost of over $3.2 billion US, partly financed and run by a government-foreign investor partnership. Kuwait is a desert country located in the Middle East. The country, just like Namibia, has a severe shortage of water and relies on its desalination plants for its fresh water. Currently, the country's desalination plants have a daily capacity of producing 58.3 million cubic meters, where 52 million cubic meters is generated through multi-stage flash distillation, and the remaining 6 million cubic meters is produced through reverse osmosis. We mention these cases to demonstrate that desalination is possible. Improvements in technologies are pushing down the operating costs of desalination plants, with studies being conducted to assess the viability of using solar energy to power desalination plants. Expert studies show that the installed cost of desalination plants is approximately $1 million US for every 1,000 cubic meters per day of installed capacity. This means that to install a large-scale desalination plant serving around 300,000 people, the cost will be about $100 million US, or about 1 billion Namibian dollars. This is a project that government was supposed to start engaging in years ago. Desalination is a viable, sustainable solution for water. Through developing a comprehensive desalination system across our coastal towns, Namibia can also become a net exporter to other arid SADC nations, including Botswana. Government also has to look into building more earth dams in all 14 regions to complete the existing ones and to improve catchments and decrease the burden on farmers, as well as pursue the installation of water points not more than 100 meters away from communities to ensure that potable water is within easy reach. So in conclusion, while we as the PDM do support the ratification of the revised establishment of the Orange Shenkul Watercourse Commission in principle, we urge government to urgently look into the commissioning of more sustainable solutions that can guarantee water security in the long run. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Next is Comrade Jerry Akanjo.
Thank you, Comrade Deputy Speaker, honorable members. I just want to take part in this discussion. Water is life, and water is sensitive. Some years back, I visited the origin of Nile. It's just a small spring in Uganda, just from the ground. And you see that spring of water, how bigger it comes, the further it flows. Now, Egypt, Sudan, they are at loggerhead because Sudan want to build a dam. And Egypt say no, otherwise it will block the waterway. In Zambia, the Zambezi River is also a small spring somewhere in Zambia. And you can see it goes out through Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Mozambique, up to the sea. When it comes to Orange River, toward the end of the year 2000, it means it was before 2005, there was a meeting of the Interstate Defense and Security Ministers in Lesotho. These are the ministers of Home Affairs, Police, Defense, all the security-related ministries. And then we were taken to where the Orange River starts. Since Lesotho is a country up higher, it's a mountainous. Those mountains are close to the skies, to the clouds. And the clouds are snow, there's always snow. That is the snow that falls continuously from the mountains that form the Orange River. And we were told by the then Minister of Defense that time in Lesotho, he was saying that in the year 70 to 1970s, 1980s, the Lesotho government made an agreement with the apartheid government in South Africa for South Africa to build a dam for Lesotho. Now, the water from the mountains flows into that dam. And from that dam, there are underground big water pipes that leads to the gold mines in South Africa, underground. From the dam to the gold mines in South Africa. And once the dam is full, only the water that flows over, these are the water that goes into the Orange River. So it means not all the waters, there is a water catch-up. If the dam is not full, Orange River is dry. Once the dam is full, then the water that flows over the wall, these are the water that goes into the Orange River. I'm saying this that it was not in the before 2005. I don't know the technical people of all these ministries, especially from Namibia, when they were working on this document, and it was signed in Maseru, did they see where the bulk of the water goes to the gold mines in Johannesburg area? It's just for the House to know that I don't think we'll get full amount of water. We just get a small water. Now, if the agreement is about the small water or is the whole bulk of water, it's just a thought for those responsible for water to know that the agreement we signed, we are just utilizing maybe 0.00% of the water. Thank you, Comrade Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Finally, on this motion is Honorable Maureen Himba.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you. I rise to support the ratification of the establishment of Orange Sequa Water Cost Commission. Honorable Speaker, first of all, let me compliment the Minister for taking up this matter, which I have noted that it was signed in 2018, meaning that it is overdue. It also says that implementation will be valid 30 days after the third ratification. It will be interesting to know if Namibia is part of the three or are we the last one to join the crop. What is pleasing, Honorable Deputy Speaker, is that as I previously raised the concerns around the desert encroachment, especially in the southern part, it is pleasing to see that under the objectives of the Commission has identified the mitigation of the effects of environmental degradation and climate change as one of their objectives. I'm also pleased to see that it talks about the source and the mouth management of this water. And Honorable Minister, if Minister could probably appraise us on possibilities of what other interventions could be made or what is part of the mouth management of this river, meaning that where this river enters the Atlantic Ocean, is there any water management interventions that could assist us to benefit more or tap on that provision. At the same time, I also want to add to the observation that has been made in terms of the imbalance in beneficiation from these water resources. I don't know if it's only as a country we to be blamed, but I was made to believe that the underdevelopment of the agricultural activities along the Namibian side of the Orange River is because of the limitations that are placed on access to the water that goes along the river. And I have had the privilege to stand at the overs or the riverbed of the Orange River, specifically at Sandens Drift. Sandens Drift is the Namibian border post. Sandens Drift is the Namibian border post, almost opposite Varambat, but on the Orange River that takes you to Piala in South Africa. Now when you stand at that bridge, beautiful bridge actually that is there, it appears as if you are in two different worlds. If you look at the southern part, it is so evergreen. And if you look at the Namibian side, almost no life. Honorable Minister, it will also be good if we can establish ownership of farms along that and probably possible effective utilization of agricultural land. I also want to agree that yes, it has problems with, it is more hilly on the Namibian side and therefore probably not so very cost effective to do agriculture there. But in the same vein, Honorable Minister, I have noted in my reading somewhere that the Kuvecom, which is the Water Cost Commission for the Kunene River between Namibia and Angola, was not really operational. I would like the Minister to probably comment on that and also to see how we can improve on the beneficiation on the economic activities along the Kunene River as well. Lastly, I wanted to understand if we have stakeholder structure or network that can supplement the activities of such a commission or the secretariat present in Namibia, for example, and stakeholders. I look at Ministry of Environment, the Tourism Department, Water Department, and Agriculture in my, but the list is not exhaustive. But when I look at those industries that could benefit from this orange, from these rivers, for example, I tend to say that one does not see the cooperation that taps and also that facilitates to discuss the challenges people experience along those rivers. And I remember that at a time when I visited those rivers, obviously very often, since I'm from that area, at times the Orange River is almost very dry, that you can literally walk through, that probably Home Affairs and Defense and Ministries also becomes part of such stakeholders. But many a times people are saying that the challenges is because of the management or one-sided management of the upstream countries. So I'm confident that Commission would provide that platform to timely address the water challenges, especially in the great industry. And lastly, Honorable Minister, I am tempted to bring in the aspect of the Richtersveld Transfrontier that is wholly underutilized and that is declared as environmental camps or reserve area. I want to ask for engagements in the area of the Richterveld Transfrontier for the Namibian side to capitalize on activities that can benefit especially the local communities. And also because if you look at the agricultural activities right from Karasburg up to the Noordoever road, that it is almost not existent because of the lack of grazing. However, on the other side of the river, on the other side of the road, west of that N7 road, you would notice that grazing of most of those land is not utilized because it is under the Ministry of Environment. So I'm basically asking for possibilities of land to be opened up for usage for the communities that are landless. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Honorable Dr. Kawanya.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I rise to add my voice to the discussion at hand. I support the ratification, first and foremost. Honorable Deputy Speaker, we are aware that throughout history, nations have gone to war with a view to have access to water resources. I'm therefore very happy to note that the four countries which are riparian states of the Orange River, namely Namibia, South Africa, Lesotho, and Botswana, have come together to find a common ground, how to equitably utilize the water resources of the Orange River. I therefore commend the four countries for their wisdom in ensuring that the water resources of the Orange River is equitably shared in accordance with international law. I also, in the same vein, rise to commend the government of the Republic of Namibia, our very government, for ensuring that a long-lasting solution is found in a peaceful manner with a view to equitably utilize the resources of the river. Today, because of this planning, we are one of the countries in the region, if not in the world, who are major exporters of table grapes because of that water that we have. Not only exporters of table grapes, but also we are able to employ thousands of our people, especially the youth, who are most affected when it comes to unemployment. In the same vein, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I do concur with the honorable members who have spoken before me, who said we should continue to utilize our resources, which are God-given. At the same vein, we should also ensure that the communities who live along the resource that we are talking about also equitably benefit from this resource. It is a fact that Namibia is the driest country in Southern Africa. Second is Botswana. And therefore, for us, as it has been stated, that water is life, we have to invest in water. Indeed, we are aware that smart planning produces positive results. Other desert countries, and I always use the example of Israel, it's a desert country, and yet it exports agricultural produce. Why can't we do the same? And the Orange River, the grapes in the Orange River there, Hassenke, Komsberg, is one example that we can use in Namibia because of smart planning. Today we employ thousands of our youth. Today we export the grapes in order to generate foreign exchange for the benefit of my dear nephew here, the Honorable Minister responsible for finance, because of this planning. Instead of push and pull, as it has been the case with other nations, Namibia and the other 3 SADC member states saw it fit to say, let us sit around the table, peacefully, equitably, utilize the resources that we have. And for this, once again, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I would like to commend my colleague, the Honorable Minister responsible for water, including his predecessor, Johnny Mutoro. He is running away, for the well-done job that they have done with regard to Orange River. And I'm aware that it was not easy in order to negotiate or renegotiate this agreement. It was not easy. I'm aware of that. However, it's a good start and I support the ratification. I so move.
Thank you. Next is Honorable
Thank you very much, Comrade Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I rise to also add my voice of support to the ratification of this important instrument. As it was mentioned by the previous speakers, countries have gone to war throughout history fighting over water. The Middle East is a classic example of the problems there. So I would really add my voice and give my full support to this ratification of this very important agreement. Most of the colleagues have spoken about the Namibian side that has not benefited, and it is true. If you drive along the Orange River, starting from Roshpina there, Oranjemund, and you see on the South African side how the other side has developed, but on the Namibian side, very little progress there. And it is important we, upon attainment of independence, the Namibian government started the great projects there. Today, these are multi-million-dollar projects that are creating the necessary jobs. So we need to share the resources, as it was stated by the previous colleagues. And it is important that we share equitably that resource. It has developed South Africa, but the Namibian side and the Botswana side is a negligible progress on our side. So it is good that I congratulate the 2 ministers who have really propelled this agreement. With the other ministers, it is not easy to reach that agreement because, as it was stated here, South Africa consider the Orange River as its own. They say the northern part of the river, no, the border is on the northern part. Well, we in Namibia are saying no, the middle of the river. That should be the international law and international norm. But South Africa is still not agreeing. So it is important that we reach agreement in paper and signed and sealed so that tomorrow it remains a reference point. We cannot compromise on principles, on issues such as livelihood where we depend. So let me say I support fully ratification of this agreement, and it should serve also in the future negotiations on the Kunene River Basin and also the Zambezi River. The ministers, they know what I'm referring to, all those basic agreements. But as the other colleagues have also mentioned, Namibia is an arid country. The little resource that we can benefit from, we should fight for it unreservedly and make sure that our people benefit. A lot of projects can be developed in the south. Our people, goat farming, you can make lucerne along the river there, and our people can make business. Our youth are complaining that there are no jobs, so let's enter into this type of agreements, source foreign direct investment, and we create lucerne. The people in the south can survive from this Boer farming, goat farming, and sheep farming. Yeah, those are the things that we have in mind. So, Comrade Kale, you have our full support. A luta continua, a victoria es certa.
Thank you. In the absence of I recognize is it Karupu?
Steve.
It's on.
It's on.
Please, Comrade Karupu, you have the floor.
Talk.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I also rise to support this very important piece of legislation. The water courses in Southern Africa is a very scarce resource that are being said by not only by human beings, but also by many other living beings. Countries in Southern Africa benefit from these resources in different areas. If I can give an example of Botswana, where the Kavango River ends. That's Botswana swamp there, Kavango swamp. It is taking care of many different animal species as well as bird species. Honorable Jire Kanjo just informed us that the Orange River is also benefiting South Africa in terms of economy for the mining activities. People are benefiting in terms of harvesting resources like reed, grass, harvesting resources like fish from those rivers. And we also went as far as drawing some waters for agricultural purposes. We've got irrigation schemes that we are using from these sources. Both the Orange, the Kavango, we are using those waters for agricultural purposes. So it is very much important for us to come on the table or around the table as member states that are using these watercourses to agree on how sustainably we can use these watercourses to avoid any conflicts in the future. It is very much important that we should have an agreement. So I therefore support the agreement or this piece of legislation that is on the floor. And I thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker, for giving me the floor.
Thank you. In the absence of anyone who wants to take the floor, I would like to give the floor to Honorable Minister to reply.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, for the floor again, and thank you for a very rich debate to all the members that have participated. I will try to address all the concerns that were raised by members, and I will start with Honourable Vinani, who recognized that we are a riparian state, but that there is a need to be more aggressive when trying to utilize and get rights of these perennial rivers on our borders. And I fully agree. Now, with regards to the Orange River itself, we have in fact a water offtake agreement with South Africa that gives us 65 million cubic meters a year in water rights there. Now, the situation on the ground is that the grape industry alone uses that amount already, a little bit more. They use 70 by now, which only becomes a problem at low water. If it is high water, there's no user below it, so no one worries what we take off during high water. So at low water is our critical time, and there we have reached the allocated water that we by right, by an agreement, may utilize. With regard to the other rivers, which Honourable Vinani and also Honourable Viva mentioned, let me just quickly brief you. On the Kunene, we have a series of agreements with Angola, water take-off agreements. There are 5 agreements. The quintessence of that agreement is that we are entitled to get for free, no royalties, half of the total flow of the Kunene at Ruakana, which, if you want to have figures, has been determined by hydrologists at about a flow of 80 cubic meters a second. That is half. 160 is the full flow, half of that we can utilize for whatever purpose we want, whether it is for hydro, whether it's for water supply. At the moment we utilize about 40 of that, and it is for the electricity and for agricultural, and of course for the whole water supply network that is fed by the canal from Olujania to Oshagati to the purification plant and then back up and down through the recirculation system. So that water is very crucial, and therefore we must make sure that it is. But there is surplus still available. We have another 40 million cubic meter available there. With regard to the Kavango River, we have an entitlement of, I believe, 3% of the total flow, because we are a riparian country but not a contributing riparian state. We don't contribute to the water flow in the river. That 3%, if you calculate it, equates to about 3 cubic meters a second, and that is about 94 million cubic meters a year. So it is about 2 von Bach dams. That is our entitlement that we have. That's at the minimum. There is some room for interpretation. It can also be 6, in which case it is then 188 million cubic meters that we can utilize. Again, the river is sensitive at low water to feed the delta, not so much at high water, and it is, of course, an environmentally very sensitive topic. But we have an agreement in terms of international treaties, the Helsinki Accord, which entitles us to a certain takeoff. The same is true for the Kwandu and the Zambezi. Of course, with the Zambezi, the flow is much bigger, so the 3% is much larger in volume. We are not using much in the Zambezi other than the takeoff for Katima Mulilo and 2 green schemes. But Honourable Binani, yes, thank you very much for your support. We agree that we have to look more assertively to our rights. Honourable Mirova, yes, you said more or less the same. You wanted to have some clarity on what we do with Angola, the Kunene. I've touched on that, and the Kavango. Honourable Tora, thank you very much for the support, but also for the kind of background information that you supplied, how we reached this agreement, what are the important salient points in the agreement that we have amended, and how we want to proceed. You had a specific question on Article 6.1. Now, Article 6.1 is a standard clause that just grandfathers whatever has been done by the old Commission to be still relevant. And that's why the wording is there. It is deemed to have done in terms of the new agreement. So it is not establishing the Commission or re-establishing it, it legitimizes its action. That's our understanding. So if it is then repealed in Article 67, that's the very reason for the deeming clause, that you do not repeal with repealing the agreement all the decision that the Commission has taken. And that is, I think, what it means. Honourable Swartway, thank you very much for your support. I think you touched on a point that is a very important one, and that is how do we assure that natural resources, water, whatever, are equitably shared across communities, the whole citizenship. Now, our Constitution, actually in Article 100, and I'm sure you know that, is very clear by saying that land, water, and natural resources below and above the surface of the land and in the continental shelf and within the territorial waters and the exclusive economic zone of the Namibia shall belong to the state if they are not otherwise lawfully owned. Now, it is important to realize that water resources in a country like Namibia are not equally distributed across the country. So we have to make use of water resources in one corner of the country to feed another corner of the country. And let me explain how that is working. We do that already, and we are one of the leading countries in what we call inter-basement transfer of waters. We are transferring water from the karstland to the Omaheke region and to Windhoek. We are transferring water from the Khomas region through the Swakopmund Dam into the Orongo region and into another basement. That is an example that I try to use to illustrate that we cannot say that the people that are living on the colony own the water. And they can determine what we do with the water. That would be a difficult thing to do because it would sometimes put in jeopardy interbasin transfers of water to other regions. But where I agree with you, we must equitably share something with these communities, that they are not left behind. And I think it's important to explain that, well, ambiguous or dual purpose that we have to look at. Yes, I agree, the resource is actually underdeveloped if you see the Orange River in full flood. But if it is at low water, it is overutilized. And I think it is the lowest flow that determines the total potential to a certain extent. Unless you have storage facilities. And it is for that reason that we, as Namibia has, in fact, proposed a dam north of Noordhoever, so that we catch water during high water and distribute higher flows during the low water time. That project is still on the cards, but it is delayed because South Africa lost some interest in it. But I think we must pursue that aggressively to make sure that we maintain our downstream activities. You mentioned some communities in the area that have groundwater quality problem, and you suggested that we create a network from the Orange River. In theory that would work, but because of the low water limitation that we have, it would be an unsustainable or only partially sustainable system, because we haven't got enough water in the low water time to utilize what we are needing now. So we must supplement it, have some smart ideas how we do it. But I think the dam idea is the best one, that we have a storage dam north of Noordhoever, which is a good site from which we regulate the water better and have a better yield of the water. Honorable Kawandenge asked whether we are getting any benefit out of these international agreements. And yes, it's a relevant question, but our take is that as a small economy with very little muscle, our safeguard is in fact multilateralism. And our safeguard therefore is in international agreements. If we don't have the safeguard of international global agreements, we will have very, very little defense when a dispute is at hand. Therefore, these international agreements, especially for water resources, is a safe haven for us rather than a burden. Of course, we must negotiate the terms of those agreements so that our interests are really reflected. But without an agreement like that, you will fall back into a might is right situation. And you will have no chance to get your interests defended. So multilateralism and international protocols, when it comes to resource utilization, is crucial for small economies to enter into and find some protection through these international instruments. And let me give you an example. We are together with South Africa, Botswana, Lesotho, and Swaziland in the SACU agreement. And we are sharing our tariff income through the pool. There came a point where South Africa said, we stopped paying. And what did we small economies do? We took them to arbitration, we won the case, and we got our money. Was it not for an agreement that entitled us to a dispute resolution mechanism? They would have just said, well, that's it. Tough luck for you, we decided we will not pay, we don't pay. So it's a good example where good and well negotiated agreements and their dispute resolution mechanism is crucial to give us some kind of defense. Honorable Fries, you wanted to know what the status of the border issue is. Well, with regard to water utilization, it's crucial whether the water belongs to one party or is shared. Now, I think the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, would be the person who can answer the question on the border appropriately. But what I know is that the negotiations are ongoing. We have no agreement yet. Namibia holds its position that the border is in the middle of the river, that we have to share resources. South Africa says we don't have a problem with sharing resources, but the border should be on the northern bank. There is a dispute not yet settled. We have to keep on negotiating, and of course our position is, as per the Constitution, in the middle of the river. You talked about desalination as a problem, and yes, I agree. I think one can actually safely say that from a resource point of view for water, Namibia has no problem. We have the ocean, we have a de facto limitless resource. We have two problems now. One is we haven't yet developed the infrastructure to bring that water to where it is consumed. And secondly, I must make you aware, and the House aware, about price. At the moment, our water price, on average, for industries is about twice that of South Africa, in Windhoek. If we bring desalinated water from the coast to Windhoek, that costs about 3 times what we pay now. If you calculate, if we do that, our water would be 6 times the price of that in South Africa, and with that we will not be competitive. You mentioned that the capital outlay results to a $1 per cubic meter. Well, that is true, but $1 is 17 Namibian dollar. It's high, price very high. So price is a matter that we have to look at. But we have in government taken the principal decision, desalination must come because the resources in the Kwiezip are limited, so are they in the Omdel. As we speak, we utilize already 20 million cubic meter a year through desalination. We supply all the mines with desalinated water. But we need another desalination plant, and we are working on it. We have finalized the pre-feasibility study, and it will be put in the pipeline, probably with private investment enhancing our ability to get it on the road in the near future. You also mentioned the Botswana-Namibia project. Yes, but that is another project. We are splitting it. We are looking what we need for the coastal area for development, and then we look at the Botswana project. Linked to that, we also have to realize that in Windhoek, in the central area, we are running in the near future to an area where we cannot supply more water, so we cannot absorb more industries or high consumption as we go. So we must shift our urban development into areas where the water is better available. And the coastal area is one of the areas where we have to look into because of the ocean. And we have got, from a resource point of view, no problems. Comrade Dekanyo, yes, you are very right. Water is life. Now you said that Lesotho is not using much water, but it in fact is. Through what you have described, it's the Lesotho Highland Water Scheme. It takes the total water of the Orange River in 3 dams to Gauteng. And it's a major source of income for Lesotho because they sell it. And whatever, and you are right, whatever is captured in the dams is not going to the downstream. But South Africa has got other big dams in the Orange River lower down. So we are really here at the tail end of things, and the argument therefore is, yes, we must negotiate harder, we must get our fair share. From Lutinda Mumende, we are, to answer your question, the last to join. The others, Botswana has got no real interest in the Orange River because it's only a dry river bed that joins. The interest is with Lesotho and South Africa. They have immediately ratified. We were thinking about it, not because of the fact that we ratified, but we wanted to make sure that the provisions that we enter are benefiting us better and we have a stronger voice. The environmental degradation, it of course is now a general global problem. We have to deal with it, and you are right, water is at the very center of environmental degradation and climate change. And we as a dry country have to live with the prospect of becoming even drier. So we are fortunate that we have the ocean, we must manage it, and of course we must manage those rivers that we have. But they may run dry, so the risk is relatively high. Joint management with stakeholders, yes, where it is possible, we can do that, but as I said earlier, transfer out of basins into other basins and over far distance is a must in our infrastructure development program. So we can't say that all and the total resource belongs to those communities and we can't take some of it. It's an important principle. I'm not so sure. I always thought that Sandling's Drift is next to Hospina, and opposite Karsvan is what is Onsiepkamp, that's the bridge. There, but maybe. But the principal problem is agreed. And again, low water is very low. We talked about the Noordhoever Dam. The Richtersveld Transfrontier Park, I leave it to my colleague to answer that at a given point in time. Kawana, thank you very much for your support. You are absolutely right. Israel is probably the expert in irrigation. There are very interesting articles about it. They produce oranges, grapes, things like that. But the outcome, the yield, the economic yield is very little because they are only exporting very expensive water. So the input cost to get it is very high. But there are some benefits, of course, through employment and value add. But the principle is correct. We can learn many things from them, how to sustainably and better use scarce water. Now the grape industry is one of those cases. We developed a significant industry which by export value is larger than our total beef industry. And that is a completely new industry that has been developed on that water source. And I think it is important recognition that new developments are possible, that agriculture can bring value to the economy in a very significant way. The blueberries, the asparagus, the dates, these are the high-yielding crops that can very significantly contribute to economic growth, and we are pushing them as hard as we can. Comrade Nyoma, yes, you reminded us that the grape project was not there before, it is now there. Now, Honorable Swartboy said that it is foreign owned. Yes, by and large it is. But it is a foreign direct investment that brings jobs, about 1,600 jobs. It brings export earnings. So there is some economic benefit that we have. And I think we should not shy away from foreign direct investment. We must just make sure that we get our pound of flesh out of the utilization of the natural resources these investments go into. But the grape and date industries are highly yielding, they are very profitable if they are properly managed, and we have great benefit for now. Now the different grape projects that you mentioned are important. And the one that is in trouble is our own at Orip. It is actually having a better potential than Außencare, but a small thing that became a very big thing went wrong. And the small-scale farmers that we settled there did not have a full grasp on the tight management you have to follow when you farm with these high-yielding table grapes. One has to crop at precisely the right moment. You have to spray, you have to irrigate in a very tight schedule. And some of them were not so tight. Now the wines are not producing anymore because of this poor management. So we have to fix it. But the potential is there, and it needs to be improved, of course. But it's a new industry, thank you very much. And it has greater potential. We can now use Neckartal, we can use Notre Dame for similar projects. Lastly, Comrade Rupo, thank you for your support. I think you were talking about your river up there, the Kavango. It's the second largest river that we have, and it has some potential, but it is governed by international treaties, and we utilize our entitlement. Deputy Speaker, I think the whole debate about water is a large one. It's a big one. It's life. It is having direct bearing on our development potential. It's a very, very important resource. We will try to improve the yield that we get out of the resource. We must improve the way we work with water. And what the modern way in agriculture is to use water is you use it twice or thrice. In Windhoek we do that through the reclamation works. We consume it, we harvest the sewage, we purify the sewage, and we use it again as potable water. One big project is to increase that to close to 40%. We are now at 20% of sewage being purified and put back in drinking water. So there we use it twice. But in agriculture you can use it sometimes 3 times or 4 times. You can use it to have aquaculture in it, you can use ducks on it, you can water bananas or whatever, and then you can still irrigate cereals with it. So that is the type of water uses that we aim at green schemes to be better yielding and multi-uses of water. But as I said, it's an important debate. Thank you for the support. I think we are now better off than we were with the old agreement. Thank you.
I now put the question that the motion be adopted. I now put the question that the motion be Okay, 2 minutes follow-up.
Yes,
I recognize Honorable Maureen Viva.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I just wanted to...
Yeah, I just wait for... which one is...
Yeah, it's also a follow-up.
You were the first.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Carlos Ledwine. I'm very grateful that you informed us that the offtake that Namibia is granted per year is 65 million cubic. I would like to know how it compares with the offtake of the other 3 riparian countries. I do understand the fact that we are here talking about equitable sharing of the resource, and it does not mean that it is equal. But one would also like to know what is the share that they are getting compared to what we as Namibia is getting. I thank you.
Yes, maybe you can wait. Okay, Honorable Hinda.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I just wanted to correct for the record.
Just wait for Honorable, yes.
I wanted to just, for the record, I just wanted to correct that I meant to say the Fjallårsdraft border post that is across on Sipkans. And then, Honorable Minister, there were 2 points that I raised that the Minister did not say something about. One is the aspect of the Richtersveld Transfrontier that is so underutilized versus the people across the road on the other side having grazing issues. And yeah, I think that was the point that I wanted to raise, to hear a comment on the Fjallårsdraft. Also, did I ask about the COVECOM water course agreement, whether it has been implemented? Thank you.
Yeah, those 2 concerns. Honorable Minister.
And the ownership issue, just a technical side. And the ownership on the farms on the Orange River. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me first turn to Honorable Merowa's question. Well, the 65 million cubic meter is only a small fraction of the total runoff of the Orange River. I don't know what the exact figure is, but I don't think it's more than 5%. But I'll give you the correct figure once I have established it. But I think it's in that range. So, and that's why this agreement is so important for us. It gives us a little bit more voice and muscle to argue for our rights, which are tiny. So, your point is actually correct. On the Richtersveld, I thought I said that I will ask the Minister of Environment and Tourism to answer that at an opportune time. It is a matter where the grazing that you speak about is in the park, I believe, and the utilization of the park is not covered by this agreement. So we will give you an answer in an opportune time, but I have no mandate to do that. The agreement that you were talking, is that the Kavango? Well, the Kunene, as I indicated, there are 5 agreements. It's the first and second border agreement. The first border agreement was between Portugal and Germany. The second one was between Portugal and the governor of the UK in the South African Union. The third agreement was with the South African government and Portugal. The fourth agreement was an agreement and special agreement between South Africa and Portugal to allow them to build Kalwek. And the fifth agreement was an agreement between the new South Africa after liberation and Angola as a government. And all of them are fully implemented and are operational. I think I covered it. Thank you again.
Thank you. I now put the question that the motion be adopted. Are there any objections? Then it is completed. We move to the next. We move to the second notice of motion by Honorable Smith. Does Honorable Smith move the motion? Who second? Any objection? Agree to? Honorable Smith, you have the floor to motivate your motion. Meridian. This is the control room. Can you tell them? Where? Tell the control room. What? What? The control room? Eh? No, there are still some minutes. Maybe he will finish with those. Can you go and the control room? Can you alert?
Yeah. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I just want to find out, should I continue or can we adjourn till tomorrow? Because
how long is your motivation? There are still...
It will be the best part of 15 minutes.
How many? Yeah?
Best part of 15 minutes to 20 minutes.
30 minutes?
Yes. 15.
You can adjourn. No, there are still some minutes. Can you allow him to go a little bit over 5 minutes? Which is which one? If we go now, there are still 5 minutes, 6 minutes. If that is the feeling of the, if that is the feeling of the House, I call upon. We can wait till tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, you will be the first. Yeah. Everybody is exhausted. With this, Right Honourable Prime Minister can adjourn the House till tomorrow, 14:30. Right Honourable Prime Minister. Because
I see the opposition MPs are very tired. And they want to now try and say it's Swapo who is tired. Swapo never tires. Okay, I move that the House adjourns until tomorrow at 14 hours 30.
Yeah. So actually everybody is tired. So the House is adjourned till tomorrow, 14:30.
It's very tired.